My name is Dana Sockolov, and I was asked to share my story in honor of Recovery Month, and I was absolutely happy to do so. I never thought I would say this, but I am a grateful recovering alcoholic. And the reason I say that is because I finally have an answer and a solution to what was going on for me and how I felt and how I was acting. So, about 5 years ago, a little over 5 years ago, is when I began this journey into recovery. Um, I'll tell you a little bit about my story, and then share about my recovery because that's the beautiful part. So I I started drinking and using substances and controlling my food and over exercising when I was about 13 years old. And at that time, what was going on at my home was my mom was at the end of her drinking and she was going to a treatment program. And what was going on for me, I'm the oldest of three kids. I'm the oldest of three siblings. And, what was going on for me was that I was finding that I couldn't control what was going on at home. And the best way for me to try and control what was going on here was to pretty much escape reality. And it felt like it was the one thing that I had control over. And I want to just say that I feel like I was an alcoholic, an addict. I had that obsession before I ever even picked up a drink. So for as long as I can remember, I've had those obsessive thoughts. So my mom got sober when I was 14 years old. She went to two treatment programs, and the second one when I was 14, and I was a freshman in high school. And for me, I always wanted to feel different. I didn't like who I was inside, and I just wanted to feel different. I think back to times when I was in high school, and we would go to a party in high school, and what I would do is I would look across the room at all the alcohol and think, like, how can I drink a lot really fast just in case it runs out? And that's what I thought. I thought those things all the time. I noticed that my drinking and my using was different than my friends. When I was in high school, one of the big things, I feel like this came first for me, but I started restricting my food, and I over-exercised a lot. So I was really into sports, and I played sports all year round, but my addiction kept me going to the gym at 6:30 in the morning before I even went to school, and then I would have practice afterwards. And so that was really, really intense for me, and that was something I could control. To be honest, I never even told people about that. My food and my exercise was a very, very secretive thing for me. So graduated high school. I did get in some trouble in high school. What happened? I got drunk in public, and I went to the hospital for alcohol poisoning, and I blew a .39 when I was 16, and so that was scary. But the reality is it didn't stick with me really hard. It didn't hit me like, oh, I almost died. Like, it was almost like, oh, I blew a .39. Like, that's pretty cool. And so the fear never really set in like that. And so I went to college, went to Cal Poly, and for the first time, I got to be in college with no parental supervision, and I got to do what I wanted to do, and I was an alcoholic, right? So I got to drink the way that I wanted to drink, and there was so much freedom in that for me, and I loved it. So when you're in college, you can kind of rationalize, like, yeah, everybody drinks, everybody blacks out, like, that's kind of the normal thing. And so the people that I was hanging out with were doing the same things as me. So I couldn't I couldn't really, tell that what my drinking was maybe worse than anybody else's. So, at this time, I share this just because my younger brother, Matt Sockolov, he went through his own journey of addiction and recovery. And so when when I was 18, a freshman, he got removed from the home and went to a wilderness program in Utah. And so that kind of started like some big changes in our home. So I was in college, my brother got removed from the home, and then my sister was at home with my parents. So, I joined a sorority in college. It wasn't really my thing, but my drinking and using progressed. My senior year in college, I guess I should say too, like throughout high school, I was really into other drugs, other substances. I've always been somebody that likes uppers and cocaine, and but I dabbled into everything here and there. I have always smoked pot. That was always my drug: alcohol, pot, and then throughout high school, like cocaine. And for the first few years in college, I didn't really do much besides drink. And then my senior year in college, I got pretty heavily into drugs again. And that was kind of my scene. My senior year, I barely graduated. I graduated like a 2.8, and I really didn't even want to finish my program. I didn't want to do my internship. I just wanted to be done. And so, after that, I ended up moving back up to Northern California, and I got heavily into the it's not the rave scene, but just that the nightlife, I guess, and going to clubs till 5 or 6 in the morning on the weekends. I started working as a restaurant server, and I was just telling some of the story. So I worked at night. I work night times, and so I would rationalize that I should be able to drink wine during my lunchtime, because most people get off work and they drink wine for dinner time, but since I'm working at that time, it's rational for me to drink wine during the day. So that is my crazy rationalization, but I was in so much denial that my drinking was a problem. I covered it up. I was so secretive about it. And that was the big thing for my drinking. I was so secretive about my drinking, and I didn't want you to know that I maybe had a glass or two of wine, or that I even felt a buzz, because I didn't want you to know anything about that. It was such a secretive thing for me. And so, let's see, during those years, they were kind of down for me. I didn't know how to make myself happy, and I clinged on to anything, and to the relationship that I was in, and I relied on that person to make me happy, because the truth is like I did not know how to make myself happy. I did not even know if I liked black or white. I did not even know right from wrong. I had no opinion, and the truth is like I had zero self-worth, and I didn't love myself. And so, we, in that relationship, we kind of ended it, and I moved home, and I was living with my parents for a few months, and I ended up getting a DUI, and I got a DUI in the morning at like 10 a.m. I was driving to the dentist, and I got pulled over for being on my cell phone, and the cop asked me to step out of the vehicle because he smelled alcohol in my breath. And so I went to jail at 10 o'clock in the morning on like a Thursday. So that was pretty eye-opening for me. That kind of caught my attention, because I'd always kind of said to myself, if I ever get caught for a DUI, maybe like I'll have a problem. Maybe I'll start thinking about it. And so I did, and I had to call out of work. And when I was in jail for those 4 or 5 hours or whatever, it didn't feel like me. I felt like I didn't belong here, and I really didn't want this life for myself. So, I got out, and the next like few months, I found myself drinking and driving, and I found myself not understanding. I was like, well, how do I go to a Giants game drive myself there and not drink. I couldn't wrap my head around how that was supposed to work. How do I, maybe I'll take the ferry into the city because that allows me some time to drink. And I couldn't understand it. I kept getting in the car drunk again and driving. And it kind of stood out to me. So that was in February 2013, and I ended up moving to San Diego kind of on a whim in June 2013. And I moved down to San Diego. I packed my little white Honda that I got when I was 16, and I drove to San Diego, and I moved in with somebody, a family friend from home, who was, very generous to offer up a room for me to stay in. But it was at that time that I had been down here for maybe a week and a half or maybe 2 weeks, and I was trying to find my place. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anybody here. I didn't know what to do. I would just would ride my bike along Mission Boardwalk and sit at the beach and just explore different areas. I didn't know anyone, and I just kind of had this meltdown moment where I was in my room, and I had had a couple glasses of wine, and I should say that what I started to notice is when I moved down there, I kept saying, I'm gonna not drink until 5 o'clock. I have nothing to do all day. I don't need to start drinking earlier. But I would, it was 12 o'clock, and then I would try and do 2 o'clock, and it just that denial was starting to get broken for me. And so that night, it was July 10th, 2013. I was sitting in my room, and for the first time ever, my denial was so strong that this thought never came up for me. My thought was, if I get sober tomorrow, what would be my sobriety date? And it was the 11th. And I was like, okay, the 11th has always been a spiritual number for me. And it's always been my number really, really close to me. And so at that moment when I understood that it was the 11th, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting sober. And so I sat there, I cried, and I believe in a power greater than myself today, and I absolutely believe that was not coincidence, and that was a power greater than me, making that decision for me. So the next day, I went to an AA meeting, my first AA meeting that I wanted to be at, and I sat there, and they said, is there anyone with less than 30 days of sobriety? And I raised my hand, and for the first time, I said, my name is Dana, and I'm an alcoholic. And I cried, and I can remember that day so clearly. And everybody came up to me and talked to me, and made me feel loved. And I got sober in Pacific Beach in San Diego, and I felt the love, and one of the things for me is I was so alone that I showed up to, when people invited me to things, I showed up, and so that was huge for me, and I made a really, really good group of friends that totally kept me sober when I was new like that, and I'm so, so grateful to those people today, and they're still in my life. But I'll never forget what it was like to be so sober. I felt so lost. I felt so alone. But as soon as I went to AA meetings, for me, it changed everything for me. I heard what I needed to hear. I heard people talk about the obsession. My addiction and my drinking was so secretive that I didn't even know people obsessed about alcohol. I had no idea people thought that way. And so when somebody broke that ice and that barrier for me, it was just this whole relief that I have been holding on to my whole life. And I think that's another big thing is being out there, and that denial is so much harder than being honest and then being sober. And I don't have to, so today, I'm honest with myself, and I'm honest with other people. And I can't hold on to that stuff. It doesn't sit with me very long anymore. And I have so many gifts from being in recovery. I get to marry the man of my dreams in a year. We have a baby doggy who actually just got into the trash and is chewing up tissue paper, or toilet paper, his favorite toy. And we live in sunny San Diego in a cute little beach cottage, and I have the world's greatest friends. They're amazing, and life is really good today. I've been able to change my thinking, and to me, my alcoholism is like a disease of perception. And I have to constantly say, like, please show me how I can see this differently, because when my first thought is usually something negative or something wrong. And so I need to, ask for guidance on how I can see this situation differently, because my alcoholism likes to trick me, and that's flat out truth. And I don't know what he just knocked over there. But I still go to AA meetings. The AA program, that's what keeps me sober. All my friends are in AA. I sponsor women. I have a sponsor. I go to meetings. I'm of service at meetings, and as much as I can. I got into the recovery field, and I became a drug and alcohol counselor, and I did that for about 1.5 years. But today I help recovering alcoholics and addicts with those roller coaster of emotions through using essential oils. And so I help them with an emotional aromatherapy program to really work with their emotions, because I know what that feels like, and I still have to take care of that today. So I appreciate Alicia asking me to do this and share my story. Just know that you're not alone. If you're having any kind of thoughts like this, like I did, just know that you're not alone, and do your best to be honest with yourself. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. That incomprehensible demoralization they talk about, that shame, I don't feel that anymore. And my life was so driven by fear, and I have a choice today. I don't have to live like that anymore. And I'm so grateful to, friends, family, AA, and everybody that's been my support. So please, if this video, touches you, or you're looking for support, please reach out to me. All right, thank you guys. Bye.